Alright. Next in the list is Uglymug Epicfighter, which I believe is one of the isekais for the year. Very gimmicky from what I saw of it. I didn't see anybody talk about this show at all. So let's see what we got.
You know, it's pretty rare that I don't even get to the isekaiing part of the isekai. But man, they fucking drag it out so goddamn long with this intro. And it's just the most whiny shit I've seen in a while. Like, to be fair, it is making, in theory, valid points. Like, yes, ugly people are disadvantaged in society to a certain extent. Yes, Japan's judicial system is overtly prejudiced towards against defendants. There's a lot of just put these people away type mindsets. Yes, having a criminal record will completely fucking destroy your life. But the attitude of this main character is so goddamn whiny and lame that I just don't want to deal with him. Like, you're presenting good points, but you're presenting him in the most obnoxious, whiny way possible, and also in a way that's a little bit misogynist in a certain way, in the way that it acts towards, like, the women character that ruined this guy's life. It feels very Shield Hero in a little bit of that way. It's just so woe is me that I fucking hate it. And, like, it's not bad looking so far. It is a White House or White Fox production, and those are typically fairly solid. Although I think they got bought recently, and the new owners want to crank out as many anime as possible. So I guess this will probably be the end of White Fox being good. But yeah, I don't. It's so whiny and lame. It's so whiny. That's all I can say. It's so fucking whiny.
Alright, Uglymug Epicfighter off the list. I didn't even get to the part where we actually saw his ugly ass face, but whatever. Next is Nyaight of the Living Cat. This one had a lot of like pre-release hype behind it. But then that died out pretty much immediately after the first episode. I think a lot of people just thought it was too repetitive. But maybe people were being a little too harsh towards it. Who knows? Let's find out.
I had a feeling this one was only going to have one joke, but I did not think that one joke was going to wear out in like 5 minutes. Yeah, this one's just kind of boring and like really plain and just not hooking me in any way whatsoever. Like, the concept is there, I guess, although said concept feels more like something you would see in like a 4-panel webcomic. Like, this seems like something that would be written by fucking Adam, what's his name? That guy. You know the guy who wrote the Adam, the webcomic guy. You know what I'm talking about. Or even like Shen Comics. I could see this content coming out of like a series of comics from like Shen Comics, like a series of 4 panels, but not a full TV anime. I'm sure this functions perfectly well as a manga, depending on the length of each chapter, but no. Also, this adaptation is completely sauceless. It's so plain and boring to look at. Literally the only thing that has any, like, drive behind it, it feels like, is the detail put into the cat designs, like making them look like actual cats. But also, when there's big groups of them, they just turn moving around. It just turns into CG anyway, and it's not particularly good CG. So I don't see the point in adapting this one. I just, other than to promote the manga, I guess. If it did, then I guess mission successful. But I don't see anything here as an anime. I don't really see anything here worth watching.
Alright, Nyaight of the Living Cat off the list. And up next is There's No Freaking Way I'll Be Your Lover. Unless you gotta say the title like that. Unless I know a few people who watched this and liked it. I know it's a Yuri rom-com, and it's by Studio Mother, which is a bunch of Studio Zebek expats who did, what was that one? More Than Friends, Less Than Lovers, or whatever anime that was pretty good. Most of the stuff, there was one other one that's Studio Mother's done that I can't remember that was decent, I think. Or no, I didn't finish that one. But anyway, hope I have a good time here.
Oh my lord, these bitches are messy as fuck. Whew! Okay, just finished up There's No Freaking Way I'll Be Your Lover. Unless I already made that joke. That was fun. That was a very fun show. I have a lot of gripes about the presentation, but that was a very fun Yuri series. It's definitely not Yuri bait. I can definitely say that. There is a lot of Yuri happening in this show. Often in very, very wild ways. Occasionally to the tone's detriment, or the tone inflicts the... Oh, let's get into it. So, I didn't realize this until I started this, that this is a Yuri harem series. Everybody wants our main girl's attention, love and affection, and such. And I think they do a pretty good job of making that feel earned, in that despite her being a socially awkward fucking weirdo, she is genuinely a very good person, and is with a lot of that stemming from her social awkwardness and her desperately trying to, like, appease the people around her and, like, trying to make them comfortable and happy so that she doesn't get rejected by them. So there's a very obvious through line of this person is good and kind and accepting of who I am, therefore I want to be with them. To different extents with different characters. There's also still a little bit of that, not a whole lot of the rom-com misunderstanding tropes. There's a little bit of that, but it's never like a driving point in the plot. So if that's something you're concerned about, because that's a concern every time a rom-com comes up, that's not really like a big thing in this one. It's mostly the driving conflict of this one is that a lot of these characters are really fucking bad people. Like, outside of our main character, a lot of flaws. Like, the quote-unquote main girl, Mai Ozuka. By the way, before we get into that, this series is available on YouTube. I didn't watch it on YouTube because I don't have YouTube Premium, so I didn't want to sit through 5 fucking ad breaks for an anime. and every time the ad break stopped, the closed caption turned off, so I had to disconnect it from the Chromecast and then reconnect it to the Chromecast with the closed caption subtitles on. So that was annoying, so I just fucking torrented it. But for some reason, some of the names are spelled weird, and these are the... Because it's like, these are the people that the Japanese companies have hired to subtitle this. I think it's like Anime Rewow or something is the YouTube channel, or because it's like they spell Ozuka. It's very... It's My Ozuka. You can very clearly hear them saying Ozuka, but in the subtitles it's Oduka. They replaced the Z with a D, and there's another character named Satsuki, very common Japanese name, but they spell it Satki. They just take out the S part of the tsu. Very weird subtitles. Also, there were just like some straight up subtitling errors in this one, but these were I got the Arai Raws. That's where I got these from. So like that's just ripped from the subtitles, and like there was just straight up like someone actually accidentally hit the number 4 in front of a sentence at one point. So subtitles were weird, but aside from that, fairly accurate in terms of intent. Anyway. Bad people. The person who is sort of the main girl of the series, like the main love interest, Mai Ozuka, who's like this model, perfect girl kind of character. She's kind of a sociopath. Like, I wouldn't call her a narcissist because she doesn't blame her for all... Or she doesn't blame everyone else for her problems because she doesn't really think that she has problems. Like, everything just goes well for her all the time. And she's just like, well, naturally things just go well for me because I'm just the best. She just thinks extremely highly of herself and will just force herself onto other people. Maybe sociopath's the wrong word for this, but also she just is full on fucking nuts once she realizes that she has feelings for our main character, Renako. Like she very, very much forces herself on Renako in a lot of instances. To the point where it's like, there are a lot of consent issues in this show, which, like, if you've seen the show and you don't know what I'm talking about, turn Ozuka into a guy, and, like, you see where the consent issues come from. Like, there is a point where she is sexually forcing herself on Renako, going up her skirt and shit in like the 3rd episode, near the end of the 3rd episode. And it's like, there is no consent going on here. Renako very clearly is not into this. And this is where the tone issue comes in, because like 95% of the time for this show, the tone is like very happy, bubbly, poppy, super zany comedy fun times. And even in that instance, it's presented very sensually and like smooth, and like this should be like a... I feel like that they needed a little bit more stress in the moment. There's like an after part where it doesn't happen, and like there's a big angry kind of moment, but like I feel like in the moment it should have been a little bit more like, hey, this isn't okay what this character's doing. Cinematically speaking, I should say. Narratively, it's like there, all the correct words are there, but like the way it's shot feels much more inviting than the actual situation is, I guess I should say. I know I've seen some of the people I follow on Blue Sky have actually read the light novel for this one, and apparently the light novel does go a little harder in that direction, and the anime like sort of softened its tone a little bit, which like on the one hand, if you want to be more inviting to anime onlys, I guess that's a way to do it. But also, you're mixing the messages a little bit, and like it felt a little weird. It felt a little weird. But yes, Ozuka is just a straight up fucking like tour de force of a lady. And like she does a lot of guilt tripping and a lot of, actually I guess that's a little bit narcissistic in the sense too. She like guilt trips Renako into doing a lot of stuff for her. But also a lot of the other girls aren't that much. Well, they're a lot better than that. They are a lot better than girl who will fuck your life up. And Ozuka seems like the girl who would like say that she's going to kill herself if you don't date her. Like if she was pushed far enough, she's that kind of girl in a sense. Like I guess the final episode of her arc in this episode 4 is sort of like a toned down version of that, where it's just like she breaks things off with Renako for a little bit, and it's just like she invites every single person who has ever confessed to her to like a suitor's ball. Wild. Where was I going with it? Oh, but so then there's the other girls. There's Satsuki, who is so fucking sadistic towards Ozuka. Rightfully so, to a certain degree, because like there's like a scene in the first arc of the series where she, after Renako forces Ozuka away, she goes crying to Satsuki because she's like, well, you've been in love with me this whole time, right? So I need you to I want to be comforted by someone who I don't love. And I'm like, this bitch. Like, the Ozuka is like just full stop a bad person. She is bad. She is not a good influence on anyone around her, except maybe Asijai-san, or Ajisai. Is that Ajisai-san? Yeah, Senna. I'm gonna go with Senna because that's easier for me to pronounce. With her arc at the end, where basically, but also she wasn't super nice towards her either, because she's like, hey, you know I like Renako, so like, what do you feel though? I'm like, this bitch. But it does kind of turn around on her at the end. I'll get to Senna later. Satsuki is just full-on fucking revenge towards Ozuka. Like, she just wants revenge on her, and so she's like, alright, Renako, if you want to salvage our little friend group here, you have to date me for 2 weeks. And then Satsuki kind of falls in love with Renako at the end of those 2 weeks. And again, kind of not rightfully so, but like understandably so, because Reina is presented as someone who's just very earnest. That's a great way to describe her. She is very earnest when she is able to get the words out that she wants to say. That's Satsuki. And then Senna, who is this, like, I was going to call her the Ojo-sama character, but I guess Ozuka's the Ojo-sama character in this. Senna is like the really, like, soft-spoken older sister type in this. Yeah, the One-sama. Let's call her, yeah. She's like the One-sama type in this, who is like the extreme people pleaser, as it were, to the point where it becomes a bit of a neurotic tendency. She is the most not bad person of the 3 main love interests so far. We haven't even gotten to Kaho, who is this bubbly lolly character, Kaho is the gremlin type. Very, very Gigi Mooning energy. We haven't gotten to her yet. I assume we'll get to her in the sequel series, which has already been announced and is only 5 episodes, apparently. But it's also called Zokuhen. Maybe that means just. I think I don't know what Zoku actually means. I'll have to look that up. But anyway, so spoilers, I guess. If you're on episode 5 of the seasonal wrap-up show and you don't know that I do spoilers. Senna confesses to Renako at the end of this show, at the end of this season, and Reneko's like, "Yeah, I will date you." And Ozuka is just there in the background because she's so confident that Renako will just come back to her. And so she's just left there going, "What? What?" Fucking, it was a very cathartic moment, I guess, because she is... It's been a while since I've seen a main love interest who is as bad as Renako. She's not good. And I'm very fearful as to where this series is going, because to have the counter confession this early makes me worried that Renako will end up with Ozuka anyway at the end of all of this. And I don't want that. But, yeah, there's a lot of drama, a lot of messy shit, a lot of catty shit, and a lot of fucking zany, fantastical rom-com bullshit. And it's presented pretty well, too. Like, this is... I will say that this is about as well presented as a new director with very little experience could have possibly presented it. Because I looked it up. He's not, like... I only looked him up on Mal. Maybe his ANN list profile is a little longer. And I don't remember what his name is. But he only has like 5 or 6 entries, period, that he's worked on. And this is his directorial debut. This is over at Studio Mother, by the way. I think I mentioned that in the intro. Which is very funny because at one point in this series, they do say the lines "more than friends but less than lovers," which was the first Studio Mother series from that brand new studio, which I did in the seasonal wrap-up show several years ago. But this series is the character designs are extremely well polished. The animation's very solid when it has animation. It's not a super high animation series, but it has what it has. There's a few compositing issues every now and then. Not in like not super bad compositing issues, but sometimes it's like the colors just don't match. The colors of the character designs don't match the colors of the backgrounds all that well sometimes. Mostly because like they do go for like a very soft pastel aesthetic for the color design, for the character designs. We got like the pinks and the sea foams and the blondes and like chestnut, very light browns, the hazel colors. Even the black hair in this is like not black, it's like a dark gray. It's like, I don't remember what the anime color looked like, but if you've seen the manga covers for like Whisper Me a Love Song, it's got that's sort of the color palette that we're looking at here. But with more pink and seafoam and such. And it's very pleasant to look at. The character designs are very good. When they do ecchi fan service stuff, it's pretty solid. It's not going to blow you away, but it's not like unpleasant to look at. It is sexy and sensual in a way. Especially, I would say, like the The bathtub scene with Satsuki and Renako halfway through the series was pretty solid. And I will say though, my actual biggest gripe with the series is they speed through the dialogue so fucking fast. Like, they are just spitting out so much fucking dialogue and information, especially in like the first two arcs. The third arc, it finally slows down a little bit, but even that it still has it is just spitting out information as fast as fucking possible at times, and it becomes a little disorienting. Like, there were a lot of points where my brain just sort of, my eyes just sort of glazed over. I'm like, oh, I got the gist of what you were saying. But aside from that, yeah, there's definitely some pacing issues on this. This moves by very fast, especially in the first arc. It is fucking blisteringly fast. And honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the voice acting. Like, I actually don't like Sena's voice all that much. It's a little too whispery, Onesama-like. A little too soft-spoken. And, again, also the voice acting ties into how fast they're making the voice actresses speak these lines, so that they don't get the voice actresses don't get a lot of time to shine in this. They don't get, because the dialogue is paced so rapidly. Renako's really the only one who gets a lot of great, well-paced speeches, which is good. But yeah, this was a surprisingly fun series. It's very bouncy and bubbly and fast-paced, if that's something you're looking for. Be aware of the consent issues going in, if you have any, like, triggers around that. And I'm curious to see where the sequel's gonna go, especially after that fucking ending. It's basically like a near cliffhanger ending, really. So, yeah, this was a good one.
Alright, There's No Freaking Way I'll Be Your Lover is complete. And we're going to scroll not super far up, but still in the top 30 so far, with the number 28 spot with a light 7. Fun times could have been a little stronger. A lot of dialogue could have been cut or like rewritten, but still a fun time. Looking forward to the next season. Okay, and next is Turkey, Time to Strike. I have heard that this one was a disaster and also a bit of a variety kind of thing. Man, I thought this was just going to be a bowling anime, but maybe that's still a major part of it. Let's find out what this show's about.
Alright. First of all, coming to you now from my new recording space in the hotel that I'm staying at for the next 2.5 months-ish. Although this probably won't come out for another like 3 weeks, but whatever. In any case, let me know if the lighting is okay if you actually watch the video portion of this and not just put it on in the background. But anyway, Turkey. God, this show's lame. I really don't have as much to say about it because I didn't get to the weird part of this show. Like, I know there's gonna be some weird time travel historical shit in it, but like, I got through the first half and I just didn't like any of the characters. I kind of felt for the one girl who was actually trying to bowl, but also she just comes off super grating, and like the obvious like you guys aren't taking the club seriously enough stuff, and then it's revealed that no, they weren't actually taking the club seriously at all. which I feel like would have been common knowledge to everyone, but apparently she didn't. No? I just don't like any of these characters at all. I don't want to see them go on weird time travel adventures. The fucking nerd character is so incredibly, like, just a nerd stereotype. Like, from the it feels like a nerd stereotype from, like, the fucking 70s or 60s. It feels that fucking old. And it's just so bad. The voice acting's not good. The shy girl, I really dislike her voice acting. It's just all bad. I didn't even get to the wacky shit that people either love or hate about this show. Mostly hate, I think. But, like, all the characters suck, so who fucking cares?
Okay, Turkey coming off the list. Goodbye. Next up, Hell Teacher, Jigoku Sensei, Nube. Those two things just mean the same thing, just with his name at the end. I watched like 6 episodes of the original series from, what was it, 95, I think? It was a Toei series. And I just didn't like when it got into like overarching plots. I thought it got kind of lame and just not well written. So maybe a remake that nobody asked for or cared about, seemingly, will fix it? Let's find out.
Nope. No, it did not. This show is not pleasant to look at. The color design, in particular, is very bad. I know, like, it's just got... The color design has this, like, weird stank to it. This weird brownness to it that just makes it very unpleasant and not pleasing to watch. And also, it's been, God, probably a year, 6 months, somewhere around there since I tried the first series. But I think I can go ahead and say that the first series is still way better than this. Even from a scripting standpoint. Like, I recall the abuse part for the one kid, what's his name, Hiroshi? I forget. The abuse at the hands of self-proclaimed exorcists was handled much better and more tactfully in that than this. It's just feels so jagged and forced in your, like, just shoved in your face. Just in terms of editing, I'm talking about. And everything about this is just real rough. The pacing of the dialogue's real bad. Nothing about it feels natural the way any of the lines come up. Yeah, this is not very, very, very not good. And it's not even like the little bits of animation that it has where it tries also look kind of weird in a way that I can't really describe. It's just abrasive. Like, it does absolutely nothing to tone down the shit from... Well, actually, I didn't get far enough into it to see if it toned down the annoying fan service stuff in the original, because there's a lot of very annoying fan servicey stuff in the original series that I think could be toned down in the remake. But I didn't even get to that part because everything about the pacing and the editing and the way this show looks and feels just is so fucking bleh and bad. I don't even really want to think about it anymore. It's just bad.
Alright. Nube remake off the list. Let's Go Karaoke. This is that one that got paired with that other Dogakobo series that I've already forgotten the name of because I barely watched any of it. This one seems like a little bit more colorful, at least. So let's see what it do.
Okay, well, I made it through the first episode of Let's Go Karaoke, which is way more than I thought I would, but still not really hooking me. There's nothing especially wrong, I guess, with this show, aside from the fact that there's really no good hook to it. Like, it's labeled a comedy, but the comedy's really not that good. Like, there's not a lot of, like, punchlines, really. And the ones that are very subdued and not, like, played all the time as comedy, even though they very clearly are. It's definitely, like, somewhere on the spectrum of comedy to slice of life. But also, the situation itself is fucking zany because it's a Yakuza lieutenant trying to get a middle schooler to teach him how to sing. So like I could live with the bizarre premise if it played into how zany and weird that was, but it really doesn't. Like, it lampshades it, but, like, visually and, like, in terms of scripting, it doesn't really amp that up all that much. I will say there are some other places where the visuals are pretty nice. Like, the way that it plays with color during the karaoke scenes is pretty solid. Standard, but solid. Some of the shots of eyes in particular are pretty solid. Like, the main character has a very distinctive design for his eyes. And I think there is something there about, like, this, like, a high schooler or a middle schooler in choir club who is about to go through puberty and have his voice change, and, like, his voice is going to drop, which actually is something that I experienced. I was in choir in grade school, and in my last, like, 2 years of grade, in, like, 7th and 8th grade was when my voice started to change, and I was like, oh man, I can't really hit the high notes anymore. That's disappointing. So I can see, like, the basis of, like, a character arc there, and just sort of coming to accept the inevitability of change, but it just doesn't really have, like, a good hook, I guess. There's nothing here that makes me go, like, man, I gotta see more of this. Like, I gotta see where this is going. Like, I don't particularly care where it's going, because, like, the main character is not particularly interesting, despite everything I just described. He's very, very quiet, very mild-mannered, and just really doesn't have a lot of traits about him that make me want to go, like, oh, I want to see this character go on this journey. And the Yakuza guy is just, like, deadpan zany. Like, he's doing wacky, bizarre things, but in a very deadpan way, which would be great if the main character was playing off of that to a certain degree, but he kind of does. And yeah, this is just too mild for my taste, I guess. It's certainly better than the last one by the same director, also at Dogakobo. Apparently it was based, I guess it was mostly the same team, probably, I assume. I didn't really look past the director in the studio, but I can't even remember what the title of the other one was. It was so nondescript. Yeah, I can't remember it at all. And I'm not going to bother looking it up afterwards because it was so not funny and boring and lame and really terrible to look at. This one is at least a little bit more earning of its Dogakobo pedigree, but still not hugely impressive. This would be, like, somewhere in the light 5 range, probably strong 4, really, if I tried to finish it. it's just not all that interesting.
Okay, I think I'm gonna skip going to karaoke this time. This one's coming off the list. Next, Kamitsubaki City under construction. Long title that makes no sense. Score looked abysmal. No clue what it's about. And I think there's an episode 0 I have to watch. Let's give it a go.
Okay, so this one's just a VTuber anime, I guess, but like a VTuber's fantasy anime. It's based around the VTuber Kafu. I believe that's how it's pronounced, Kafu. Who I only know about because she did an insert song for Pombo the Cinephile, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. It was a solid song. It's the song that plays over the final editing portion in the film, like at the very end, if you've seen that. The insert song that plays over that. And apparently she did a collab with Suisei at some point. I never saw it. Or maybe I did and I just forgot that I listened to it. Regardless, this show fucking bites. It's full CG and it's really fucking bad, full CG. The design elements are fantastical and weird sci-fi shit, but they're not cool. They're not interesting to look at aside from the weird goldfish thing that lives in Kafu's shadow. And by the way, when I said that this is a VTuber's fantasy anime, I mean that not necessarily Kafu, but a character named Kafu is the main character of this show. So that's what you're walking into with this one. I know. So since I know nothing about this VTuber, I'm not gonna get any references from any of her songs or her whatever she does. Hey, you know me. I'm not gonna be outright dismissive of VTubers, but like, if you're going to make a full anime production out of it, it's still got to be a good show. And episode 0 opens with essentially a gamma ray burst that affects, like, I forget how many people it says it kills, but it kills like a pretty just Pompeii's a bunch of people across the world, I guess. I'll be honest, I skipped over the episode 0 once it got to, like, there's a part where they're in line for a food bank, and the animation between this one character and this, like, adult, like, neighborhood mom character is so bad that I just skipped over it. It's just so bad. So then I went to episode 0, then I went to episode 1, and the animation was still bad, and so I clocked out. I'm not gonna watch something that looks this bad. It's fucking rough, man. No, thank you.
Alright, Kamitsubaki coming off the list. Finally, an end cap. Call of the Night Season 2. Really enjoyed Season 1. Was one of my favorites for the year it came out, which was at least 2 years ago, I think. Maybe more? I can't remember. I finished the manga earlier this year, and that was really good. So let's see. I know this covers like the big detective arc for this one, for this season. So let's see how good this adaptation is.
It feels like I never left. Just finished up Season 2 of Call of the Night. Yeah, just about as good as the first season. Some stuff slightly better, some stuff either slightly worse or it's just not nailing it quite as much. But yeah, overall, just as good as the first season. This season, though, I definitely noticed it's a lot. I definitely was in tune with the vibes a lot more this season, I guess you could say. the ambiance, the atmosphere, the general mood of everything. I'm certain that was definitely part of the first season, but I just felt it a lot more this season. Maybe it's because I was watching this. I watched the back 2/3 of this after the Reze movie for Chainsaw Man, so vibes are certainly on my mind at this point. Like, while we're here, I want to take a little brief aside about, like, there's, for some reason, the discussion is flaring up again about, like, if you read a plot summary, do you really know what the story was like? And, like, no. The obvious answer is no, but, like, I feel like Call of the Night is a really good example of that, and so is the Chainsaw Man movie. Is, yeah, you could describe all of the events that happen in this, but it's not going to sound or feel the same as watching it happen, because the vibes and the atmosphere and how everything is presented are so incredibly crucial to this story. Like, you could say that the vampires are sexy and sensual, but that is an entirely different thing than showing the vampires being sexy and sensual. You could say that it has... You can, like, talk about all of the flashbacks and the emotions that these characters have, but it is completely different when you see the lighting and color palette applied to what's going on. Those two things in particular are incredibly crucial to the presentation of Call of the Night, and are one of the things that I think elevated above it just being an adaptation of the manga. Like, the way the monochromatic and dichromatic, trichromatic, whatever, the specific, whatever color filters applied to everything really enhanced the mood in so many interesting ways. The heavy emphasis on sepia tones or just drowned out, like, grays and browns during Kyoko's, the detective's big arc and her backstory and all of that. It's so incredibly essential to setting the mood for all of this. I do want to briefly mention that this is one of the weird instances where, like, and again, maybe it's just because I have read the manga. I finished the manga a few months ago at this point, sometime earlier this year. I can't remember when, but because I have read the whole manga, I know some of the big, like, shots, some of the big panels, like the really important, like, impacting panels from it. And so when I see those panels being, like, mimicked one for one in the anime, honestly, those are some of the moments where the anime is at its weakest, because it is just trying to mimic that panel and not doing it as well as the manga did it, because it was specifically designed with the manga in mind. Like, the one that sticks out to me the most is where Kiku Hoshimi is turning away from Mahiru, and, like, her face is covered in shadow as she is, like, reveling in the fact that she is getting Mahiru to fall in love with her in this very sick and sadistic kind of way. And in the manga, the particular kind of shading makes her look so extremely menacing and dark. And in the anime version, they just kind of put a big shadow over her face, so it doesn't really work as well. So that's that, but it's not always that. Sometimes it does mimic the manga panels pretty well, like, in particular, like, the big, like, sky shots and, like, the shots of them just in the sky and stuff floating around. Those shots always look really good. The cityscapes are fucking fantastic looking. The way that they this incredibly rich purple and violet hue to it, spattered with like whites and blues and yellows and stuff, is so incredibly captivating to look at. This is one of those ones where it's like, oh wow, this background art really is fantastic and eye-grabbing. Like, that's not something I thought I was going to get going into a Call of the Night adaptation, but yes, the backgrounds look phenomenal in this when they're doing these big cityscape shots. But enough about the way it looks. How is it told? It's told pretty well. I will say though, before I get deeper into this, I will say there are certain things about this season that, if you have not read the manga, are probably a little bit frustrating in terms of the fact that they're just left open. Because I know what happens with Mahiru and Kiku, and I know where Ko's brief vampirism thing goes, but those things just sort of get like barely touched on in the anime, and then they move on to other things that are more important to what's going on at the moment. So I don't know if they've announced a season 3 yet or not, but I sure hope they do announce it. Unless this one bombed in terms of sales and views, I imagine we might get a season 3 and then probably a season 4 to round it out. I imagine this series is only going to take 4 seasons to tell. Not entirely sure of that, but I feel pretty confident in it because, like, we got through all the detective stuff this season. Next season is going to be the Mahiru stuff, and probably stuff with another character that hasn't been introduced yet. And then a potential 4th season will be the big final arc of everything. But yeah, really enjoyed all of the big character arcs and character backstories for this one. This section of the series is easily my favorite part of the manga by a lot. The detective's backstory, I don't know why I can't remember 100% what her name is so incredibly moving in its the way that she becomes friends with Nazuna, and the incredibly strong bond that they form, only for it to be shattered by her dad turning into a vampire and destroying her entire family, thus starting her down this road of revenge and basically attempted suicide by vampire. It's the wildest twist on suicide by cop I've ever seen. Just so incredibly powerful in its presentation. And also, the nurse character. I can't fucking remember names for the life of me anymore. It sucks. Kabura, that's what it is. Kabura's backstory with Nazuna's mother and the whole reveal around that was so good. This show is very sapphic in a lot of ways. There is a lot of Yuri undertones to a lot of this season in particular, which is not surprising because this series isn't particularly shy about different gendered relationships. But this season in particular had a lot of Yuri undertones to everything. Well, not even just undertones, because it was very explicit that Kabura was in love with Haru, Nazuna's mother. So that arc was incredibly well told, and just this general sense of yearning and longing, not just for romantic or sexual relationships, but just for companionship and for people that you can relate to and like pour your problems into, and that can help you get through whatever the fuck you're trying to get through. That was a lot of this season, and it was told incredibly well. And also we got more of the, not quite as in your face as the first season, but we still got a lot more of the what exactly defines an adult versus a kid in terms of like life problems and maturity in terms of like mental like responsibility, I guess. And just showing this like, hey, adults kind of aren't all there either. So if you're a kid looking up at adults going like, wow, they must have everything all figured out, I guess I have to have everything figured out too. No, you don't. We're all still fucked up. Nobody has everything sorted out. It's all just of life is a fuck. Good luck, kiddo. Yeah, this was a really damn good season. Really enjoyed all of the comedic banter, especially between Ko and Nazuna. Just the chemistry between them is so incredibly good. A lot of really good Midori moments this season. LG Love Green was, I forgot, I think I like him a lot better in this season than I did in the manga. Just the general presentation of it all was just so very good. And by God, these vampires are fucking hot. There is some, like, the Kiku Hoshimi at the, like, when she's lit by that red lighting in the bar with Mahiru, it is just like cartoon wolf noises. I want to sex her. Yes, this is an incredibly sensual and itchy series in the not a very overpowering way, but also in an extremely seductive way. I guess one more note before I head out is, as much as I love the the very successful use of the color palettes for the backgrounds, those colors are very rarely applied to the character models. So it kind of just makes them stand out in this big, like they're not part of this big cityscape. That could be intentional a certain way in terms of making the nightlife more exotic and more appealing, but it's still a little bit just a tiny bit frustrating from like a compositing standpoint, I guess. Also, a lot of CG crowds in this one. Unfortunately, I should have seen that coming because this is the big Halloween arc where the Miss Detective Lady pulls off her big stunt in the middle of a bunch of people in costumes and such. Although I will say there was one shot where the offness of the CG character models kind of made the shot better in terms of making it more a little like off and disturbing in a sense. I can't remember which exactly one it is exactly, but I do remember thinking that at some point. I think that's all I really have to say about this season. It's more of what you liked from the first season, but more. This is definitely my favorite arc of the manga, as far as I can remember. Not to say that it gets worse, but it just this is definitely some peak storytelling for this manga right here. And I'm very glad that we got this second season to see it. Hope we get another 2 seasons or at least like a 2-core final season to round out everything. It's probably going to be 2 just regular seasons, single core seasons, if we get them. But yeah, this was very, very, this is very good. Alright, Call of the Night Season 2 is complete. We're going to go pretty high up on the list here and put you in the number 6 spot with
a decent 8. This show is very good. I am having so much fun.